Hey guys, Chef Halbert here. I just wanted to show you a dish, one of the side dishes I made for Thanksgiving. It's going to be some butternut squash roasted with some toasted cumin and fennel seed, a little bit of Aleppo pepper, some whipped feta, and some pistachios on top. It was so good, so delicious. I wanted to show you that because it's turning out to be one of my favorite dishes. All right, let's go over some of the ingredients here. We got some butternut squash, Aleppo pepper, 2 different seeds. We got whole cumin and fennel seed, some roasted and salted pistachios, a little bit of brown sugar. I'm also gonna add some salt and pepper and olive oil. Okay guys, first step, heat your oven to 500. And here's a trick here, okay? Put your roasting pan right in the oven so it gets nice and hot. So here we have the butternut squash. This is about 2 pounds that I bought from Trader Joe's, already prepped for me. Added a 1/4 cup of olive oil, 1½ teaspoons of salt, and then some freshly ground black pepper. Actually, this is like a pepper medley that I'm going to use. This is also Aleppo pepper. If you haven't had Aleppo pepper, it's basically like a crushed ground pepper, used a lot in Middle Eastern cooking, a lot in Turkey, obviously, but it's about half as spicy as the regular ground chili flakes that we use, but it has a lot more flavor. Here's the pepper medley that I'm using. I use about half of a teaspoon. Now I'm adding brown sugar and giving it a good stir here. Make sure that it completely coats the butternut squash. Okay, the oven is preheated to 500 degrees. Look, I took out the sheet tray. I'm adding some foil, giving it a gentle spray with some cooking oil. There's already a lot of oil on the butternut squash, so you don't need to spray it a lot. If you could hear the sound on this, it would be sizzling because that pan is so hot, and that's the whole reason that we keep it in the oven. You want it to get nice and hot. You want it to act as like a hot saute pan. Now I'm putting it back into the oven. As that's happening, I'm going to toast the seeds. We have fennel seeds, cumin seeds, and I'm toasting it on a medium-low heat, right? Once you start smelling the seeds, a little smoke comes off the top, then you know that they're done. So it's been about 15 or 20 minutes. I took the butternut squash out of the oven at 500 degrees. I'm giving it a gentle toss. It's okay if some of the parts get nice and brown, nice and crispy. I really like that a lot. It adds a little bit flavor, caramelization. I'm testing them to see if they're done, and they look done to me. Now I'm gonna zest the lime. I'm using a zester here, and this is the technique I like to use. Some people like to rub the lime onto the zester. I actually like to flip over the zester and just kind of work myself around the lime. Just a little squeeze of lime juice in there, not too much. I think I put a little too much in this dish. I adjusted it on the recipe, so just follow the recipe. The key is to use feta that you have to crumble yourself. It just has so much more moisture. The feta I use is from Trader Joe's. I'm adding about 2 ounces, I think, of feta and about 3 tablespoons of cream, and I'm giving it a good stir here. I'm going to whip it with a fork. I'm going to break up those pieces of feta as I'm whipping it. It's going to look like cottage cheese, and that's what you want it to look like. In the recipe, I doubled the amount. I said 4 ounces of feta and 6 ounces of 6 tablespoons of cream. That's what you can use. Just follow that. I just used a little bit less for here. All right, here's a little bonus for y'all. I'm going to show you how to pound roast some local swordfish here. This is a great fillet I got from my neighbor, Matt Moyer, who's the chef at the La Jolla Country Club, and he's also a local fisherman. I want to show you how to season properly, okay? Whatever you season, whatever protein you want to season from up high and let it rain down. Use kosher salt because it sticks evenly and flat, and you can see it on whatever you're seasoning. You can use white pepper on fish. I'm still using the pepper medley, and that's fine, but I'm seasoning from up high. I'm seasoning on a plate that's catching any of the salt and pepper that's falling off, but the key is to season from up high. Okay, so on my grill outside, I preheated it to 500 degrees, and I have one of these little side burners that I'm leaving on high. I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm going to let that heat up until it starts smoking. That's how you can tell when your oil's ready to saute, is it smokes. So look for that. Look for the smoke. Here's the swordfish. I'm going to add it. You can't see that it's smoking, but it is. I'm giving it a little jiggle. I was trying to get it to not stick to the pan, but it did stick a little bit, but it's okay. It ends up turning out fine. The key is to keep the heat on high and to add a tablespoon of butter and let it brown. You really want that butter to brown so you get that nutty kind of flavor, deep flavor. I'm giving it a shake, and I'm going to let this butter, the milk solids, brown from the butter before I pop it into the grill at 500 degrees. Okay, at one of the restaurants I worked at, we would leave our ovens at 500 or 550 degrees, and we would just pop the swordfish or whatever it was right into the oven. But I want to do this outside. You know why? Because I don't want all that fish to be splattering in my oven, and I don't want to have to clean that up and have that fish smell in the house. So the oven's at 500 degrees, and this is an all-clad stainless steel pan. You can put directly over the heat. Okay, use a dry towel to take it out. Otherwise, a wet towel will steam up and it will burn your hand. So dry towel always. At this point, the swordfish has been in there about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm gently poking the top to see how tender it is, okay? If there's a lot of resistance, you can tell that your fish is overcooked. If it's still kind of bouncy, kind of rubbery, you know that most of it's cooked, but that top is a little raw still. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up flipping this swordfish over. I'm using my fish spatula here. I just gently turn it over and look at the top of it. Since I left it that one side down the whole time, it got nice and brown from that brown butter, and that's the trick. You can also add like some garlic or some thyme into that mixture as you pop it into the grill or the oven or whatever you want to use. And look, I'm just giving it a gentle shake, and that's going to finish the cooking. Okay, you don't want to overcook swordfish. It's a pretty dry fish, so don't overcook it. And look at my dry towel and my fish spatula. Okay, metal fish spatula. Don't use a plastic spatula; it'll melt. For safety reasons, I'm putting the fish onto a tray that I can carry in, just in case the handle gets too hot as I'm carrying it all the way back into the house. So you can see it's still cooking, and it's cooked perfectly at this point. Okay, let's go inside for some plating now. So here we have the squash, nice and cooked. The toasted fennel and cumin seeds. I'm just giving a gentle sprinkle on top. Here are the toasted and roasted pistachios. You can chop them up if you want them smaller. I left them whole for this dish. They did come in pieces, so not all of them were completely whole. Give those a little sprinkle on top. And here's the my daughter's little spoon that I use for the feta, the whipped feta with cream. And just give that a sprinkle on top as well. A couple little dollops, and you're good to go. Okay, here's a swordfish. I actually cut it in half. Normally I would cut the pieces in half, but for this demo, I just chopped it in half right in the pan. The swordfish goes right on top, and look how perfectly cooked that swordfish piece is. It's a good trick to use the grill like that. I decided it needed something green, so here I am. I'm just tearing little pieces of fresh sage. Sage goes great with butternut squash. I'm just putting it around just to add a little bit more flavor and like a little garnish. Add some green. You could use microgreens. You could use micro parsley, micro cilantro, whatever. or chopped parsley, whatever you want. But look at that, that's the finished dish. So good, one of my favorites that I've come up with recently. I hope you're enjoying these recipes, and if you are, please like and subscribe so that we can continue to grow this channel. Thank you.